Hello. Do you believe everything you see and hear, particularly on the internet? Today I'm going to talk to you about what I call the truth about data. Data analytics is very powerful, can be used in many different ways, but it can also be used to suit the purposes of those who have a reason to try and get some benefit from it. This, like a menu, an a la carte menu where you can go and choose what you want, is what we're calling a la carte analytics. So let me take you on a little bit of an adventure through this area and a few things to watch out for and be careful of as you move forward. So who am I? Who am I to talk about this stuff? Well, I'm a lecturer in computing. I'm a lecturer in data analytics. I have research interests in a range of areas: effective and emotional computing, machine learning, privacy, ethics, and indoor location. So I teach these things and I research in these things. I'm a lecturer in the Letterkenny Institute of Technology in Donegal in Ireland. So please come with me and I hope you will learn something interesting from this. So getting data analytics, getting it right. Okay. Now, data is very powerful. Okay. It can do a lot of good stuff when it's used properly. Okay. Lends itself to informed decision making for your organization. But what is informed? That's the key word. So being informed doesn't just mean, using the evidence base that's there. It means understanding how that evidence was gathered and where it might fall short. Is it saying exactly what it's supposed to say? Nice little picture there. Beware of statistics and fancy graphs. Yes, indeed. This guy's saying here, the chief statistician saying, I can prove this or disprove it. What do you want me to do? And this is the truth. A lot of people who are using data analytics can make the data say a lot of different things depending on what way they present it. So if you're using it yourself, you have to be careful what you're saying with it. And also you have to be very careful with different stuff that you read or come across, different types of analytics. What is it saying? Is it saying exactly what you think it's supposed to say? Winston Churchill reportedly said this quote. It's on the internet, so maybe it's true. Either way, it's clever. He says, I only believe statistics that I doctored myself. So he only believes in statistics that he'd changed around himself. And Winston Churchill was the British Prime Minister during the Second World War. So way back then, they were thinking about statistics and how statistics were used, particularly to convince people of whatever it is you want. Now, this is not just about statistics, but a lot of data analytics has come from statistics. So, things to watch out for. So I'm going to take you a tour around a number of different things to be careful of. Okay, I'll give you some examples as we go through. So sit back and enjoy it. And remember that analytics can be a la carte, like a menu. You can just go and pick whatever it is you want. So first one I'll talk about population and sample. Okay, this is a commonly used thing in statistics, and it's very important. It's very important the way the data is presented. What does it actually mean? Looking at the large bubble, you see census. We do census data. Censuses come around every so often and they ask you for lots of different bits of information. Now, in this case, the census is supposed to be everyone. Census is supposed to be the full population. So that is everyone. From that, as a little circle shows, taking one circle out and taking it over, that is what you call a sample. Okay, so a sample of the full data. Now, the important thing is does that sample represent everyone? Okay, if you've taken 8 people and you're looking at the general population is roughly half male female. Will your sample be roughly half male female? Is it representative? Okay, and this is very important because often the data analytics that are presented are not done in this way. Okay, a small example here. Looking at all these people. One person looks over and sees, okay, there's 2 people there, and it says, both of you have got brown eyes. So therefore, 100% of the population in the US must have brown eyes, right? Because the sample that you looked at, the only people you met, they have brown eyes, so therefore you assume that everybody has brown eyes. We know that's not true, okay? But watch out for data analytics that are presented that way, because that is essentially what they try and say. So the misuse of a sample or the sample size not being correct is used a lot. Okay, and you can make it say what you want. You can just pick the people you want to agree with your point, and other people do that as well. Next up, bias and bubbles. Okay, there's a lot of talk about bias in the world these days. What are we supposed to do with it? The truth is, people are biased. Everybody's biased in some ways or another. Now, the bias a lot of times they're talking about here are bias in algorithms. So if there's an algorithm, a way to try and decide how to make a decision, that is usually based on some data. Now, the data or information is gathered from somewhere else. If it's gathered from humans, it's going to have bias in it. Okay, is the bias good? Is the bias bad? That's a different debate. But the thing is, the bias is often accurate. It does represent the way it is. But our own bias can lead us into what we know as bubbles. There's a lot of these going on, and we're all stuck in one. First thing here, we're talking about bias, is this notion of what we call confirmation bias. Okay, now what is confirmation bias? No, you may have heard of this. If you haven't, it's out there. Is that, as in this picture here, showing you, I'm your phone. I feed you filtered opinions to reinforce those you already have. So if you want to believe something, if they know you believe in something, then they keep giving you back the same stuff again, because that confirms your own bias. If you're searching for something and you want to find out that, I don't know, most dogs are black, for example, if you Google it, you look through the first one, it doesn't say it, second, third, fourth. If you go on down far enough, you'll find something that you want. They go, haha, I told you it was so. The modern day social media particularly, and analytics have got an awful lot better at that. If you're into some particular cause, you'll find you get a lot of news about that cause. They give you back your own stuff again. Why? Because it gets you to continue using their device. Can be a lot of bias in the way analytics is presented, and you have to watch out for that. This leads on to what we call the filter bubble. Okay, and we're all kind of in a filter bubble a little bit. Okay, what happens is, particularly as you use some kind of social media, they learn all the stuff here on the right, all the different blogs you watch, what you share, who you chat to, the news you look at, your friends, anything you like. All the stuff goes together in very clever algorithms. They're put together by Facebook and Google and others. And what they do is they give you back what you want. Because if you get more of what you want, you will stay on your device longer. You will continue using their software longer, and they can advertise more stuff to you. Okay, so as the bubble shows you, out you're giving your personal data about how you use their services, what you click on, what you seem to be interested in. They do a lot of clever stuff, and they give you back the stuff that you want again, news articles you might find interesting, reports on your favorite sports team or music, whatever you like. In addition to that, they give you targeted ads. Okay, and that is how they make money. And this is why the largest, most valuable companies in the world now are all data companies. The top 5 the last time I read were Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook. And they're all data companies in one way or another. So they create your own filter bubble. So be very wary when you're doing any analytics. What are you doing? Is there any kind of bias in there? And are you giving people back just what they want to hear, or are you giving them the full picture? Also, if you're trying to make a decision based on other people's analytics, is it fair? Is it just giving you back what you want to hear? Another thing that comes up a lot is this notion of correlation and what we call causation. Okay, so it basically means a correlation just says that there's a link of some description between how things change, and causation says that one thing caused another. Now, this is where you have to be careful. Correlation, because there's a link, does not imply causation. So just because there's a link between two things, it does not mean that one thing caused the other thing. Okay, this is often put out there. Okay, it's put out there now. The world's full of data analytics at the moment, and we get stuff flashed at us all the times. This happened. There's a link between this. And in our minds, we automatically go, oh, well, one must cause another one. We have an expression in Ireland, one which I hate, which says there's no smoke without fire. Okay, so if you see something, then there must be a link. In data analytics, that's just not true. There can be smoke, there can be correlation type of smoke without any kind of fire at all. So I'll give you some examples. Now, these are These are kind of humorous examples, but it just gives you an idea to show where this stuff can go. So, looking at this example here, what we've got. Okay, take your time to study your graph, read the top. Number of people who drowned by falling into a swimming pool, okay, each year, correlates with the number of films that Nicolas Cage appeared in. Really? Well, Nicolas Cage, fairly prolific actor, seems to be in a lot of different stuff, but if you look at the graph, over on the left-hand side, you've got the number of drownings, okay, and on the right-hand side, you've got the number of films Nicolas Cage appeared in. So if you look at these years, yeah, it does seem to be a link, definitely. There was a dip in both around 2003, and then they steadily increased to around 2007, went down 2008 and up 2009. You see, definitely, Nicolas Cage would need to stop appearing in films. There are more people going to drown. It's obviously not true, okay? This is a made-up correlation. Okay, now the numbers are right. Okay, the numbers may be correct, and this is what clever people will appear on and go, oh yes, the data doesn't lie. The data may not lie, but the way you're presenting it is lying. Okay, so obviously the number of people drowning in pools each year has nothing to do. It's not remotely caused by the number of films Nicolas Cage did, nor the other way around. Okay, that is chance. It's chance that they look the same. But the graph, now this is an extreme version, nobody's going to believe that, but a lot of them are very much closer. Here's another one of these way out examples. Okay, now just looking at the graph first, you can see, okay, it's going down. There's a steady increase over time, over the years. There's years on the bottom. So over the left-hand side, we've got a number of people who died by falling out of a wheelchair. And on the right, you've got the cost for 16 ounces of potato chips, crisps. Okay, so this graph is actually saying that there's a link, there's a correlation between the number of people who are dying by falling out of a wheelchair with the increase in the prices of crisps. Now, this is extreme. It's obviously stupid. That is not an actual, this is chance. It's chance that the two of them, when presented in this clever way, look like they're increasing together. Okay? They're not. This is an extreme version of data. And there's a lot more of these on there. There's a hyperlink down at the bottom. You can see a lot of these, basically funny correlations. The key is that the correlations here do not mean that one thing caused the other. Now, to really find out if one thing has caused another, you need to do a large study and a large, with a random sample of people. Okay, mixed up, everything clear, put them all in together over a lot of data. And if you dig that out, then you can find if there's if one has caused the other. Correlations can tell you which studies to do. Now, in this case, these are not. These are just made up ones. But it just shows you to be careful of. Watch out for correlations. Okay, and correlation does not imply causation. Okay, moving on. Misleading graphs. Ha ha ha. We're in the world of, at the moment now, there's probably never been so much analytics put on the TV for us now, things to watch out for and things that you should know. Do you believe them? Well, here are some things to watch out for. Okay, and you will see these. Some of the newspapers use them, particularly or should I say bloggers, newspapers, particularly the less reputable ones, will try this more often. But these are important things to watch out for. Ways to make your graphs look better. Okay, so the first one, okay, what they do is they omit what we call the baseline. Okay, so looking right down the straight line across the bottom, where is that? Is that taken out? So if you look at the green one on the left, you see you've got Group A, Group B, Group C. Okay, and to look at that, you go, well, Group A is an awful lot bigger than Group B and C, so therefore that's what you want. It's known as a truncated graph. This, okay, you say, well, Group A is obviously far bigger. Now, in reality, what you're doing is if you look on the left line, the vertical axis, you can see that, oh, hold on, it starts at 50. 50? It shouldn't start at 50, it should start at 0. Okay, so what they've done is by starting at 50, they make it look like there's the small difference between these groups looks very big. Okay, and so in the green there, Group A looks much larger than Group B or C. If you look at the white on the right hand side, you'll see, okay, it's starting at 0, and now there's not that much difference between them. Okay, so in this case, the problem with this one is this doesn't look as impressive. This isn't going to get people to go, oh, wow, there's a big difference. Okay, so when you started at 0, it's a more accurate description of your data. Now, the more accurate description may not be what those pushing the data wanted to say. Okay, particularly in marketing, particularly in government statistics, anything that wants to convince you of something. Okay, so if you start at 0, the difference doesn't seem as dramatic. You go, should we bother using that? But if you use it the other way, a lot of people will miss it, because a lot of people don't really understand statistics or data analytics. Okay, it's a long time from school since they did anything. Okay, so be wary of those. That's one thing to watch out for. Where is the baseline at? They'll give you clever reasons. Oh, we put it there, so it made sense, but be careful. Number 2, another trick is to manipulate the y-axis. That's the horizontal one going up and down. Okay, and by making that look larger or smaller, you can manipulate the way the graph looks. Okay, so if you look at the graph on the left in the bluish color, then you will see that, okay, right, what we've got some kind of numbers going up and down from 0 up to 40. And what you can see in that is going across the other side, you've got years, 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23. And you can look at that and say, okay, it doesn't look like as much, it's steady enough, it's not really increasing that much. Okay, but what has been happened here is the scales are not right. Okay, the y-axis has been extended much too far. Okay, so it makes the scale look disproportionate, making the change over time seem small. If you look at the white one on the right, you see, okay, oh, what's the difference? It's the same data. It's just if you look at the scale going up and down, see it's starting from 5, 10, 15, because that's all the range that is actually there. And what it's done is the scale is proportionate to the data and shows a greater change over time. So sometimes you might want to make it look like the greater change, or someone might want to make it look like that. Then other times they make it want to look like a small change. Oh, not much is happening, therefore we don't have to do anything. Watch out for that, manipulating the y-axis particularly to make a change look bigger or look smaller, because we're looking for these visualizations. And if we visualize a change in our head, go, oh, but I saw the graph is a big change. Be wary. Next one, cherry picking the data. Okay, so maybe only including certain data points to reinforce what they're trying to say. Okay, what their argument is. Okay, give a false impression. So what they do is basically, instead of looking at it all, they just take a small section of it. Looking at the bit on the left, this is the misleading one. You look at that graph and just straight away you go, well, there's an obvious increase. It's just going up and up and up. This is important. What are we going to do? But look at the bottom. Look at the May 20, June 20, July 20, August 20. So only a few months out of the year are actually mentioned there. Okay, so this shows an upward trend, and you go, well, there's a definite upward trend. All that graph says is that there's a definite upward trend from May to August 2020. Looking at the white on the right, you say, okay, hey, that's different data. It's actually the same data, okay? But what it's showing, if you look at the bottom now, it says it's the full years, 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23. And you should be able to see is what they did is they just took a small section out of one of them, took the bit that was going up, didn't say whatever they wanted it to say, and presented you with that, okay? So on the right side, a much wider date range is graphed. Overall, this is what they call a downward trend, so it's actually decreasing. You could say, you know, sales of this are up, invest in our company, definitely. Yeah, if you show them that bit, if you show them the rest, or these predictions predicted to go down. So this graph shows the bigger picture, remembering that people using data analytics for their own purposes may not always want you to see the bigger picture. Moving on to the next one, there's 5 of these. Using the wrong graph, so just using the wrong graph completely, putting in the wrong one to show you something that's not what it's for. Okay, so looking on the left, we have what's known as a pie chart. Remember these from way back, and on the right we've got a bar chart or a histogram. So what you have is, if you can look at this now, if you have any mathematics at all, you're looking at, okay, on the left we've got team A, team B, team C, 50, 64, 38. Hold on a minute. You don't need to be genius to figure out that those don't add up to 100. Okay, so the pie charts are just used to show segments. Okay, used to show parts of a whole, not the difference between them. Okay, so in this case, they're using the wrong one, right? Different type of graph should be used in this case to compare these 3 teams. The first one's just wrong. Okay, I can show you portions, but even if it's showing you portions, the percentages are not correct. Okay. Then on the right-hand side, you see what they've actually done. They've used a more accurate type of graph. Okay, this type of chart is better for showing this type of data. This is maybe, it's increases or whatever, percentages scored, whatever. But the stuff is comparable then, whereas on the left, it's the wrong graph. Okay, so the wrong graph can sometimes people just look at it and go, well, Team B had the biggest chunk of that pie chart. Yeah, but that didn't mean anything. Okay, it didn't mean anything there, and it was used wrong. It's used to manipulate people by the expert manipulators in the world, in government and marketing. Next one, going against conventions. Okay, so if you look at this is two maps of the United States, and what they're going to do is, if we look at some of these type of things, we have notions in our head of what they're supposed to mean. Maybe we think we don't know what it is, but you probably think the darker one is more of something. Okay, whatever that is. So in this case, what they're doing is they're changing around the conventions to make it look the other way around. So on the left, you've got the darker shades normally mean density. So in this case, maybe it's population density, number of people living in a particular area. But in the one on the left, it's been turned the other way around. Okay, to make it look the other way around. So the scale is starting from dark and going to light, rather than what we expect it to go from. Light means not many, going up to a darker color would mean a lot. Okay, so graph can confuse and mislead readers who expect dark to represent a higher population density. So on the left, they've got areas that are placed as dark on the left, and those are actually ones of low population density, not high. So it depends what the way the data is, and it can be used in many different ways. Then on the right-hand side, it's more accurate. It's a convention that most of us are used to, like a darker shade means that there's more of it, whatever it is. Okay, higher density. So readers will intuitively know how to interpret the data. And experts in this, they play around with what the readers will intuitively know. They're going to change it because it's going to convince a number of people to do whatever they want. Again, who wants people to do what they want? Marketers and government, politicians. Watch out for these types of things. Those are 5, just a little bit more. They're more obvious if you know them. If you don't know them, they're very easily missed. But if you look at a graph sometime and you go, that doesn't look right. Have a think. Are there any of those obvious things done on it? So, can't talk about the truth about any kind of analytics these days without mentioning fake news and fake data analytics. Okay, there is so much of this happening in the world at the moment. Okay, it's got to the point nearly that it's really hard to believe anything that you hear, because this is used all over the place. But it depends. What are you doing? Are you just looking on your phone all the time? Does all your truth in the world come from your phone or come from the internet? Careful. Read a book. Look around. Anyhow, fake news and fake analytics. So this could have a whole lecture on itself, but I'm going to give you an overview of some of the main things to watch out for and just give you a couple of examples. Some of them are a bit more obvious, but things to keep an eye for. So this guy said, when talking about data analytics or talking about fake news, this is an important thing, and the same point is made often in different books. With fake news and fake content, it's not about the facts, it's about the emotion. Okay, so if they put something that's emotive or something that'll get you to react in an emotive way, you're more likely to click. And the emotion that makes you most likely to click is not being sad about something, it's not being happy about something, it's being angry. If they make you angry, you're more likely to click. Send it on, send it on, send it on. So if you really want to manipulate people, you make them angry about something. Anyhow, a number of different ways. You've got Pinocchio in the background there. Okay, for fake news, different things that can be done. I will talk about some of these with a bit of an example. Again, there's a lot of other studies and research and lectures on this stuff. Okay, so one way is to make a parody, kind of make it, make it up, make it a little bit funny, but is there a bit of truth in there? Second one, make some kind of false connection between two things. Okay, misleading content, or it's actually wrong. Okay, so the content is going to mislead you and send you the wrong way. False context. Okay, so you see something, go, oh yeah, that looks right, but then you realize the context is all wrong. It's not happening in the right way, or it's They're chopping off a bit of a speech to make it say something. Imposter content, the wrong person. Manipulated content, and this is often photos and videos. They've got something, they've changed it around a little bit to say what they wanted to say. Then fabricated content, they just made it up completely. Okay, now this is not just some kid making stuff up on his computer. These are professional people doing this. These are professional, highly educated writers, highly educated editors are doing it, and they're spending a lot of money on it. And as a secret, it's not just the people in the East are doing this. This is happening everywhere. Okay, this is happening everywhere. Anyway, a couple of examples of a few of these. So there's parody, take some line or some line that someone maybe said, and then they change it around or pitch it in a certain way. Congress demands to know how Facebook got people to give up their civil liberties without a fight. Okay, so it's done as a kind of a joke. So over in Congress is saying, how do they get that? Can we do it the same way? It's done as a joke. Now somebody maybe asked something like this in a news report, but obviously, it's not exactly like that. Although that is something to, did Facebook do that? Facebook aren't getting a look in with the coronavirus stuff, but that's a different story. Anyhow, civil liberties. Did we give them up? So that's a parody. That's something that's played around with. Misleading content. Okay, so something that's just setting you off completely in some kind of report out there. So Trump reports a world record 39 under par. This is golf. 12 holes in one during golf outing with Japanese prime minister. This is obviously made up. These are not figures. He didn't score these things, but you see it in a report, or even worse, you read it on the internet, or even worse, you read it on Facebook. But anyhow, misleading content. Okay, another example, manipulated content. Okay, and there's a lot of this flying around. But I saw the photo. I saw it with your own eyes. It used to be a big thing to be able to see something with their own eyes. Unfortunately now, you've got this guy standing here, right? He looks like he's just sitting up on some railings up over maybe at the top of a nice tower, getting a photograph. Okay, good man, nice day out. Then suddenly you see, watch out, what's behind him? It's a plane. Oh, I think, where is that? Where could that be? Where did a plane fly into somewhere? Maybe it's the Twin Towers. It's not the Twin Towers. Okay, whether this guy was on top of the Twin Towers or not, maybe he was, but he wasn't there and didn't take this photograph at the time. Okay, this was made up. This manipulated content. So the photograph, him sitting there overlooking what is probably New York, is accurate enough. It's not hard to stick a plane into a photograph these days. Photo editing has got very clever. They can do a lot of stuff. So in this case, they just manipulated it. Okay, so they took a bit of content and they changed it around a little way. Okay, and that can be done. You can get people to do it for you if that's what you really want to do. That's bad, but it's not hard. It's not hard to do. Next up, we got some fabricated content. There are a lot of refugee crises and things like that. There's a lot of really harrowing images, sad images round about. And look at this one. It looks like there's a poor child, sitting there beside graves. In the photo, you'd automatically think, that's the graves of his parents, and that type of stuff would, make people angry, make them want to do certain different things, or get annoyed or go and protest. This photo here, this was set up. That's the photographer's nephew. Okay, they were caught. He basically went out and he set it up and he made two things to look like graves, and he got his nephew to lie down and he took a photograph so he could sell it and make some money. That's what that was. Because that's what fabricated content. It's just completely made up. You got to be careful. So much stuff out there. So why do we do this? I mean, why do we believe this? We're supposed to be clever people, and we're supposed to be worldly, and people are supposed to have more knowledge now than they ever had. Well, one thing about our brain isn't focused, from psychology, our brain isn't focused on actually finding the truth. Okay? It's there to solve adaptive problems. So it's to figure out a solution for something. It's not there just to see, is that true or is it not? It's there to find a way to solve what they call an adaptive problem. So, as Jim Carrey said, the truth shall set you free. So we look for an explanation for something instead of saying it's not true. We try and go, oh, why is that? Why would that be? But it's not true is not our first choice. Okay. Oftentimes when looking at something, particularly if you're going to make a decision that you're going to make some kind of business decision based on, check it, question it. Is it true? Does it look too good to be true? If it's too good to be true, maybe it is. Okay. So where's this all going? Where's this going into the future? Well, interesting stuff could be happening. Virtual reality. It's going to make us question everything we see. Okay, what has come out now with virtual reality, how they can change it around. This is showing you an example. Imagine that you could look at a photograph of someone, if you look through their phone and some clever magic, it's going to show you what an older person would have looked like as a baby. Can that happen? Some stuff can be changed around. There's clever algorithms, there's things, but you have to be really, really careful because it can do a lot. You probably read a lot about this stuff, and some of these little examples will show you. And now these are not hard to do. Okay, things coming up. What they call deep fakes. They're using this stuff called deep learning, which is complex neural networks. And in this case, they're going to make people say what they want them to say. So if you look at the left there, that's the base image. It's an image of Trump, okay, actually talking, actually saying something. And on the right, you see from this photograph, we've got the whole main cast of Game of Thrones all saying the exact same points as Trump. This is a fake. This is not real. They did not get all the actors to say this. The scary thing is this is not hard to do. Okay, quite easy to find on the internet, simple code to do this. You pay someone, you'll do it. Most of my students could do this if they sat down and give them as a practical, could change it around. And you think this is famous people. This can be anyone. This can be manipulated a lot, quite easily. And the algorithms are getting very clever. So you have to watch out for it. Now this is making them say what you want to say. Maybe that's not enough. Maybe you want to make them move how you want them to move. Okay, so this again, some model standing there, showing off the clothing, and you can see just from the top, they just pick another range of bottles. Okay, and looking at the bottom line, they can make them all move the same way. They can make them do the same thing. Again, this is not hard to do. There's free code out there to do this. It can be changed around very easily. Okay, so these things you got to watch out for this. This stuff, there's so many things on there.